Okay, today, this title's a bit of a mouthful. Today, we are watching Psychological Operations in Support of Internal Defense and Development Assistance Programs, Part 1. Do you need me to say that again? I think I need to say that again. We are watching Psychological Operations in Support of Internal Defense and Development Assistance Programs, Part 1. All right, that's going to be the title. I'm not going to say it again. Read the title if you really need to know. But this is by the U.S. Army Pictorial Center. So some other branch of the propaganda arm, I imagine. And this was published back in 1968, so pretty much at the peak of the Cold War. So we are learning about psychological operations conducted by the U.S. Army back in 1968. This should be very fascinating. I was a little disappointed by the read we watched last week, so I tried my hardest to find something that I think will be very interesting for us. So let's dive in, shall we? The United States Army presents. No one else, it's just flat out the United States Army is presenting that. So we have to go into this knowing that we are watching probably some Army propaganda right here. Psychological Operations in Support of Internal Defense and Development Assistance Programs. All right, so that is the full title. I said it one more time for you guys. Take it all in. This is the last time I'm saying it. What a title, though. What an intense title, right? Like, I still can't even figure out what exactly we're talking about here. Like, we have some hints, but I genuinely don't actually know what we're talking about because of this title. Internal Defense and Development Assistance Programs. Like, there's just, I don't even want to try to figure out. I just want to let it come to me.
This is the United States Embassy in a country we shall call land.
In a country we'll call what? It just said land. So, okay, so this is the U.S. Embassy in vague generic land. Interesting.
In actuality,
I love how this is a generic foreign country land that we're learning about right here. Like, this is just every American embassy in every foreign country ever is kind of the implication here.
in actuality, host land does not exist.
Host land. All right, interesting. So we are in the fictional country of Hostland right now. That is, I love that we created a name and a whole backstory for this place that this U.S. embassy is in. This is already really interesting. Just from like their perspective or just like how they're framing this narrative, this is very interesting. Hostland. So that is where the U.S. embassy that we are watching is. Hostland. Not Banana Land, Hostland.
In actuality, host land does not exist. But this fictional nation has many counterparts.
Hostland doesn't exist, but this fictional nation has many counterparts. So yeah, Hostland is supposed to be the stand-in for like any other country that we're talking about. Interesting. Again, interesting that they bothered to come up with a fake fictional country rather than just giving an actual example. I wonder why. I bet they're trying to avoid something by not giving the actual example. But considering I don't even know what this is about, let's just keep watching.
Small countries in which outside alien hands have planted the seeds of subversion.
The seeds of subversion. Interesting. So we're talking about spy stuff almost. That's interesting. But this is specifically talking about the U.S. caring about hostland or other countries being vulnerable to other countries running their psychological operations on them, which the other country in this scenario, most likely the USSR. So what I'm picking up is that we're trying to figure out how other countries, the USSR mainly, is trying to influence these countries around us, like Hostland, which seems like a stand-in for like a Central American Banana Land almost. They honestly probably could have called this Banana Land and it would all make perfect sense. Like, I don't even know, is this offensive? Is Banana Land like an offensive term? Because I don't want to say it, but like these guys look like they're from Banana Land. Like, I don't, I guess Hostland is an equally fictitious world, so these are probably just plain normal white guys, so I don't think I'm actually insulting anyone by saying they look like they're from Banana Land.
In this story, host land will typify such a country.
Hostland will typify. All right, so Hostland is supposed to be like our perfect example country of a nation that's susceptible to foreign influence. Interesting.
a nation seeking its own independent path to progress, but stalled in its forward march by a subversive force that grows more malignant with each passing day.
It's really funny because it makes it seem like the American presence in the country is the malignant force, right? Like, that's what I have been trained to think based on what I've learned about America's influence in foreign policy, right? Like, that America is actually the country trying to subvert host land, right? But this is American propaganda, obviously. So what they're trying to posit is that it's the other countries, it's the Soviet Union that is trying to subvert these countries on their way to freedom and independence, you know? Like, it's so funny because to me it rings as the complete opposite as what they're saying. Like, it seems like the US is the bad guy here, even though this is trying to position us as the good guys.
Gentlemen,
it's so funny because America itself has actually played the part that they're warning about here. You know, like, America actually has subverted governments in Central and South America. You know, like, we were the ones actually influencing the revolutions and the coups. You know, it's funny that we're trying to blame somebody else for the thing that we're doing.
the pattern here is familiar. Mr. Jocko, what is your government doing about this?
As you know, we have had some success.
You know, it is interesting. I thought people from Hostland would speak Spanish, but I guess they speak English. Perfect English, too. That's interesting. I like the idea that there is a random English-speaking country somewhere in the world. Like,
And counteracting their efforts, but never quite enough. At best, we have achieved containment, stalemate.
this is almost giving me, like, Rhodesia vibes now.
Now, with the sudden intensification of subversive activity.
What are the subversive activities, you know? Like, I know there's spying, espionage, sabotage maybe even taking place, but what actually is the literal subversion that we're so worried about, you know?
The outbreak of violence in the eastern province.
Violence in the eastern province. That is like a little extra little detail that not only is this fictional country being, subverted by the Soviets, but their eastern province especially. I love the additional detail there.
My government is firmly convinced that a full-scale internal defense operation is the only answer to the problem.
Full-scale internal defense operation. Interesting. So they're pretty much talking about combating probably the propaganda that their people are ingesting from the Soviet Union or something like that. You know, like they're trying to create an internal defense for themselves so that they're not susceptible to foreign subversion, which pretty much means that they're not vulnerable to misinformation or disinformation. Those are the words that we now have for this, but back then that was just a subversion, you know?
That is why we have once again come to the United States for help.
Remember when countries used to come to the United States for help? Wow, like that is definitely something that's been preserved in these old films, is how helpful the U.S. used to be perceived as.
As to our specific needs, you will find them outlined in the official requests, which we have submitted for your attention.
Of course, we've been aware of your problem.
See, I'm super curious about this character from Hostaland, the Generalissimo or whatever, the guy with all the military decorations. Like, there's something funny coming from this character too, I hope.
And the step up of subversive activity. We have planned for this type of emergency, prepared in advance, and continually updated.
We have plans for this type of emergency. So the U.S. military had plans for what to do if a foreign country, the USSR, tried to influence the thoughts of another country through subversion, whatever that means. Again, we don't really have a definition of subversion so far, or at least in this context at least. So I don't quite know what that means, but it's interesting that the U.S. already has a plan for it all anyway.
So I've been informed by your military attaché, Colonel Adams here. You have...
This guy looks like an actual colonel. Like, is this Colonel Adams as played by Colonel Adams, or is this just an actor? Like, I don't know.
You have men who specialize in internal defense operations. Familiar with this?
Internal defense operations. Again, can we just get a definition for what exactly an internal defense operation is? Like, what's the defense from what? You know, is it from, like, an invasion, or is it information? You know, like, that's what I'm curious about.
The situation we're facing.
Then you are specifically requesting?
that you assist us ending our current training programs. We've got to set up and staff new training centers for officers and NCOs, and we must move quickly. With your government's help, we should be able to accomplish our objectives in much less time. And time will be a critical factor.
I feel confident that my government will give you every assistance along those lines. In fact,
I like how he just looked down after giving him that assurance. Like, that was the least assuring thing he could have done.
we should be able to have additional advisors on the way here in a matter of just a few days. Other specifics?
Frankly, Mr. Ambassador, we lack the trained men who would be able to plan and implement operations in an area we think is vitally important.
This slow zoom in that the camera is doing is making me think whatever this guy is about to say is going to be like very important to the story, but it's interesting what he is saying. So I pay special attention to what he says here because the camera work is telling me that it's important.
Because of this, we are also requesting that your team of advisors include a senior officer who is thoroughly experienced in psychological operations.
Psychological operations. So they are specially requesting a senior officer specially equipped or trained in psychological operations. Again, what are we talking about? Like, I'm so curious. I don't even know if we're ever going to figure it out, but like, what are we talking about? I don't know. Let's just keep watching.
Very well, sir. I think we can provide you with an expert on the subject.
The way he said psychological operations, that was like how a supervillain would have said psychological operations. There's so much suspicion now around psychological operations. Like, what? I'm so curious.
This man is the expert on the subject. His name is Leo Hamilton, and he is a lieutenant colonel in the United States Army.
You know what? I'm actually going to believe them and think that this is a real Army officer. I have to imagine he is.
Earlier today, he was designated the Psychological Operations Staff Officer Advisor. Soon, with the other officers on the advisory team, he will be flying to Hostland.
Interesting. So you can't take the train to Hostland, you can only fly to Hostland. Interesting. I'm gonna try to figure out where Hostland is by the end of this. Oh, I love the little book with Hostland just printed on it. That's hilarious.
In the area of psychological operations, PSYOP.
Oh man, I wish we could read what was on this page. Like whatever random text they threw together so that they would have letters on that page. I desperately wish I could read those words.
Colonel Hamilton qualifies as a veteran with considerable field experience.
A veteran with considerable field experience. So how did he obtain field experience in psychological operations? See, my suspicion is that this guy is the pro at doing this sort of thing to other countries. That's what makes him so good at reversing or resisting it, is that he knows the mechanisms or the strategies or the methods people use to psychologically manipulate a population. So I think he is sort of probably like the master at doing that. Like he has probably done this to other real countries like Bananaland or somewhere. So I have to imagine like he is actually the guy responsible for psychological operations in other countries that countries would want to resist through something like this. I don't know.
Now he is building on that knowledge, supplementing it with specifics concerning Hostland, its geography, its economy, its governmental structure.
Dude, all I want in this world is to learn the geography of Hostland. Please, for the love of God, give me a map of Hostland. I would love that. Yeah, let me know the economics of Hostland too. What products is Hostland exporting? Probably not bananas. I have a feeling I know what this place would be called if they were exporting bananas. So what else? They must be exporting hosts. That's the only logical thing this country could be exporting is hosts. If Bananaland exports bananas, Hostland must be exporting hosts. What exactly that means, I have no idea.
Above all, he is concerned with its people, their way of life, their religion, their culture.
What religion are the people of Hosteland? Like, I understand that they're trying to illustrate that you can only do something like this if you do have like this in-depth knowledge of the people and their land and everything and their history. But it's so funny when you relate that to a country that doesn't even exist. Oh, like the history of Hosteland. Like, there is no history, you know? It's so funny that all these details are in relation to a place that doesn't even exist because we've done this to real places and we don't want to talk about that.
Their sense of national identity, or lack of it. He must know that
National identity or lack thereof it. Like, yeah, the people of Hosteland lack a sense of a national identity. Like, what a what a great statement.
the people of Hostland, for their minds will be his primary objective.
I like the B-roll footage of an actual U.S. Army man pretending to be sent to a mission to Hosteland. You know, like, this is a U.S. Army man acting for the camera, thinking about going to Hosteland. So there's just so many layers to this.
As promised by the ambassador, a team of American military advisors arrives in Hostland just a few days after that country's official request for assistance. Their initial destination is the United States Embassy, and they are met by a representative of the military.
The United States Embassy. So what city again? Can any of you remind me? What city would the U.S. Embassy be in Hosteland? It's probably the capital of Hosteland, but I can't remember the capital city of Hosteland. Do any of you know what Hosteland's capital is? What city we're looking at here?
Attaché.
I also love the use of the word attaché, you know, like another old word that just no one uses anymore. Or at least maybe they use it in the military, but I don't use it.
Like the others on the team, Colonel Hamilton has come to his assignment well prepared. But he still faces many hours of additional study and research before he can begin to initiate a PSYOP program.
They literally call it a PSYOP. Wow, that's so funny. I mean, I guess psychological operation is a PSYOP, but I can't believe they literally said the quiet part out loud. This is a literal PSYOP that they're doing right here for Hosteland. Like, we're getting to see, like, the blueprint of PSYOPs right here. That's so funny. I can't believe they used that term.
At the embassy, he meets with the local United States Information Service representative for a briefing on all programs that may be already underway in Hostland.
That may already be underway. It's funny how, like, the U.S. government just has so many things happening in this place that, like, we might already have a PSYOP operation going. PSYOP operation, yeah, I know.
He reviews the psychological objectives the United States hopes to achieve in Hostland.
The psychological objectives the U.S. hopes to achieve. Like, just listen to that statement real quick. Like, he reviews the psychological, like, that's just so nuts. What were they, though? What were the psychological objectives that nations had back then? I guess communism versus capitalism. That's the only thing I can really think of.
Objectives based on official U.S. foreign policy.
I like how he just folded up the paper and put it down, and we never get to see what was on it, you know?
He confers with the chief of the United States Agency for International Development. This knowledge is of vital significance.
I feel like that's pretty sus on its own. The U.S. Agency for International Development, like, I feel like a lot of stuff is hidden under that banner.
For his efforts must harmonize all other American activities within Hostland.
That's interesting too. I guess that is something that I never really thought about. But like, every operation that you're running in every different country only makes sense to do if they all coalesce into one goal that you're pursuing, you know? Like, it doesn't make sense to, like, destabilize one country, stabilize another, and then just have them go to war and then, like, have that all change anyway, you know? Like, it only makes sense to do all this if your objectives are clear and everything you do is towards that goal, you know? Like, I guess that does make a lot of sense. We actually are learning, like, aspects of running PSYOPs on countries right now. Like, we're actually learning the things that we should be considering when doing a PSYOP on a country. That's so hilarious that we're learning this right now. And I love that we're learning this from the US government. Like, we're not learning this like somebody's exposing the US government. No, this is the US Army telling its people what it's doing, pretty much.
His next stop is
Oh my god, we got a Hostland flag. Yes, we got some more lore for Hostland. Holy crap, I did not think they'd have a flag. That's so funny. What color is it though? That's the problem, right? It's black and white. What color is this flag, guys? Is it white and black? Is it yellow and blue? Who knows? I love that somebody came up with a fake flag for this fake country. Like that is, and they printed it and they put it on a flagpole and they raised it and they got a shot of it. Like, oh my gosh, that's so good. I love that so much. Can that be my audience? Are you guys the people of Hostland? Like, I feel like calling you all Banana Land people is probably wrong, but Hostland, I think that might be our official logo right now. This is our flag. This is now my flag.
Hostland Army Post. He meets Lieutenant Colonel Matrak, who will be his counterpart, the man with whom he will work in very close conjunction while he serves in Hostland.
Hang on, so presumably this map is also a map of Hostland. It's probably just a topo map of somewhere, probably not Hostland, obviously, but I did ask for a map of Hostland, and here is a map that is being inferred to be, or implied to be, Hostland's map. So I did get what I asked for, actually.
With his counterpart, he reviews all available sources of information that will help him determine the attitudes of the population. How do they feel about their country, their government, and how do these...
See, what are they talking about? See, like, obviously they're not actually talking about Hostland or any sort of plans, but they are circling a map with, like, some intention. So, like, what's the intention behind these, circles and lines?
These feelings vary from locale to locale.
Did you just draw a face? You know what? I bet these mean absolutely nothing. I bet this is literally just stage direction right here.
A comprehensive accumulation of data is reviewed, but it is not seen as unalterable fact. It is rather a guideline for further research.
Hang on, what's this little logo over here? Is this like another little Hostland Easter egg? This HLON? Like, I feel like it might be. I feel like the production crew is trying to make a few details that make this place look like it is its own nation. I love all the little fake constructed nationhood details. I think those are so interesting. There is so much to read into like our understanding of other countries by looking into the ways that we constructed a fake theoretical country for our own purposes in this psychological operation, handbook pretty much. It's just, there's a lot of layers going on here. There's a lot to analyze and break down.
And all such further research is done firsthand.
You guys are definitely going to need to help me with some of this stuff too. There's definitely a lot more going on than I can even notice or pay attention to. So, leave some comments. Let me know some of the interesting details that I might have missed, because I'm sure there will be some.
They literally tour the country, sounding...
They literally tour the country. I like the phrase, they literally tour the country. What country? Oh, the fake one that we made up. But I love another use of the Hostland flag. Oh man, I love the fact that they came up with a fake flag for this place. Hang on, can we try this exercise in the comments? What is the cultural history behind this flag? What led to this being the flag of Hostland? Like, what is the significance, like the historic significance of this flag that led the people of Hostland to adopt it? I'm so curious about every aspect of this.
Out the people and their leaders, seeking face-to-face meetings that will pinpoint national and local problems, what they are and where they are. In the cities, they attend labor meetings.
In the city, they attend labor meetings. So labor, I don't know, that kind of does make me think this is like a communist, capitalist sort of thing, which it probably is given the era that this was made. It's just like, I want details, and they're very scarce in this part.
Through interaction with such groups, their understanding of local issues is enhanced.
I like how they needed to say that. Like, by interacting with the people here, people actually understand what the people want here. It's like that kind of doesn't even need to be said.
They meet with labor leaders and industrialists.
I like how all the extras for Hostland just look like classic American men. Like all these guys sitting down, like these are like your typical corn farmers. Maybe Hostland is where the company Hostess comes from. Maybe these guys are farming like Twinkies and like Sugar Dews or whatever they are. Like maybe that's what this is. Yeah, Hostess is like the queen of Hostland or something. I'm coming up with my own canon for Hostland now. Like the Hostess Corporation, I hope you guys know what that is, like makes perfect sense. If Bananaland was called Bananaland, then Hostland might be owned by the Hostess Corporation. I like that idea. That's my theory right now. Yeah, these are Twinkie farmers. Honey buns, that's what I was trying to think of. Yeah, these guys farm Twinkies and honey buns.
Their main goal is to find out the feeling of labor and industry toward the military and government of Hostland. In many cases, the feeling of the people toward the military establishment is similar to that shown toward the existing government. Psychologically, the military in every country in the world represents government authority.
That's interesting. Psychologically, the military always represents the government, which I guess is 100% true. Even for like, feudalism, like the government is always the entity that has the monopoly on violence. Like there is no government without the military, Like I feel like that is a good observation. The government sort of is the military. Not exactly, but I get what they're getting at there.
Military psychological operations cannot function independently.
Military psychological operations cannot function independently. It's so funny, the language, like the obvious language they're using.
They must always reflect the national policy of the host country. To establish the target audiences for any military psychological operation.
The target audiences for any military psychological operations. Again, like, I wish they would spell it out even more, but they really are spelling it out for us.
All functional groups must be checked, and their reaction to the military establishment determined.
All functional groups must be checked, and their reaction to the military must be monitored. That is like a crazy police state that they're suggesting right here. And again, they're suggesting it in order for this country to avoid communist propaganda, presumably. They're saying like we need to control this country through and through in order for them to not receive communist propaganda. It's just like that's exactly what communist propaganda said as well.
Teachers. Writers and publishers.
That's funny how like the most important people of the society were the teachers and then the writers and the publishers. Like, don't get me wrong, I definitely agree that like the teachers were the people who determined what everyone in the country thinks, because those are the people who determine what the children think. I don't know, I guess that's just two different angles, right? Like the teacher is not the propagandist or the misinformer, right? That is more the newspapers and the printers. It's funny that they included them kind of in the same boat there.
Farmers.
Again, some very American-looking Hostland farmers.
And religious leaders.
Oh, okay, so at least we know that in Hostland they are Christian, presumably Catholic based on this priest, so that's good, a good Christian nation Hostland is.
Each will have a perspective that is peculiar to his own particular group. Problems, real or imagined, will come to the fore.
Real or imagined, I like that. That's a little wink-wink to us.
This face-to-face, eye-to-eye confrontation with the population provides the PSYOP officer with a tool that is essential to his job.
The PSYOP officer, tools essential to his job. Like, oh my gosh. Like, it couldn't be any more obvious, It's so funny. It's so funny that like they're saying it in such a like positive light, like the American PSYOP officer.
Insight, a look into the minds of a people, a working knowledge of their individual and group needs, attitudes, and ambitions.
Dude, okay, another Hostland poster. Hostland, a proud nation. All right, that's another little piece of information we have. A proud nation. Hostland isn't one of those not proud nations. Hostland is definitely a proud nation. Here we go. We got their flag again. We got some fighter jets. Support your government. No secondary languages. English is the first and only language of Hostland. I like that. I like Hostland now.
As with most countries that find themselves in the midst
This flag, what flag does this remind me of? This reminds me of like the flag from Community. Does anyone know what I'm talking about? The flag that they made of the community school in Community. Like that's what this flag is reminding me of.
of a communist-inspired insurgency, Hostland has a population with a doubtful sense of national unity.
Whoa, that was crazy. I guess I don't know the entire populace of Hostland. So this is the Hostland rebel rouser right here. The communist, probably.
And does have problems, economic, social, and emotional.
Economic, social, and emotional. I like that. That's like another little subtle jab to the communists. They all have emotional problems.
And subversive insurgents are always aware of them, always ready to promise instant solutions for the price of revolution.
Instant solutions for the price of revolution. Yeah, we really are trying to convince people not to engage in a communist revolution. That is very much the point of this.
In the more urban areas, where there is less dissension and more of a
What's really crazy, though, is that this program was watched by men in the military and then set out to do this very thing. You know, like the psychological operations that we did pull off in Central and South American countries, and really all around the world, those all came from this. The people who pulled those off probably watched this. Like the people who started coups and revolutions were probably watching this. Like that's what we have to remember. It's like this isn't just an educational program. This actually had an impact on world history, on entire nations. You know, this program, not even just like the people, but like somebody watching this gained the information they needed to affect some other country. And they did, you know, it's not just that they had the skill. They actually put these skills that they learned from this program into practice. That's what's so crazy about this.
sense of national integrity, subversives achieve only minor disturbances at best. But real grievances must not be ignored. In the rural areas of Hostland, where government supervision and
Okay, cool. We're getting the rural areas of Hostland now. Cool.
control is only a wispy thread, the subversive makes strong
Control is only a wispy thread. That's just a very funny use of language as well.
stronger headway. Here he is free to promote his objectives. Here he can recruit and frequently obtain the direct support of the civilian population.
That's interesting. So what they're identifying here is how the rural land of a country is where you end up having all these sort of insurgents arise, because this is where you can get the sort of community where people support each other. That's a very interesting observation.
The potential recruit is carefully selected. Perhaps some injustice, real or imagined, drives him where he reluctantly goes, to the side of the subversives.
It is funny that it seems like they're making an effort to make the people of Hostland, or at least the soldiers of Hostland, seem of a different ethnicity. All the farm people, the normal folk, they seem like plain old Americans, but all the soldiers seem like they were specifically chosen to suggest Hostland ethnicity.
In some areas of Hostland, the subversives have so deceived the populace that they have very strong civilian backing. Here they are openly combating government troops.
I love the gun sound effects. Those are like the classic gun sound effects. Like that, I've heard those sounds 1,000 times over and it never gets old.
Initial analysis indicates that the target audiences
Dang, did this guy write that in chalk on the chalkboard? He wrote that perfectly. Like, dang, good handwriting on this guy.
can be broken down into three basic groups: the subversives, the government
I thought he was gonna write something, but I love that it's just stick figures instead. That's great.
supporters, and then the big group in the middle, the uncommitted civilians. Any PSYOP effort will have to encompass all three groups.
Interesting. Any PSYOP effort will have to include the normal people, the government, and the subversives. That's interesting. This is such a weird lens to be looking through.
Having mentally worked out, altered, rejected, and then finally accepted plans for the military psychological operations program, they now prepare to put them on paper as a formal proposal.
Hang on. Can we read any of this real quick? Oh man, I can barely read any of this. National Objective Mission. Here's the thing. Even if we can't read this, I like to think that this is exposing for us how the U.S. military did organize this sort of stuff, at least on paper, right? Like, I like to think that this is an actual PSYOP, like, piece of paper. I don't know, obviously Hostland isn't real, but like whenever we did engage in a PSYOP, I like to think that this paper is still the paper that we would use for that. You know, like we are actually revealing at least part of the bureaucracy of our own PSYOPs through this shot. I hope this is accurate enough that we actually are getting to see what our PSYOPs looked like on paper. But can somebody read those and translate them into written word instead of script? Because I would really like to read what was written there, but I just do not have the eyes for script. Like members of Hostland, like I can read some of it, but I would really appreciate it if one of you just took the L and did the work and let me read it in text.
They list the major psychological
Target: attitudes, susceptibility, effectiveness. Like I really think there's a lot to be learned just from like this paper alone. Like not even what's written on it, but what the categories even are. Like how we even framed our own PSYOPs. You know, that's what we're learning from this shot.
major psychological objectives. Then the
Themes, you know, it's funny that we'd have themes for our PSYOPs. You know, like this is a beach-themed PSYOP. Like this is a pirate-themed PSYOP. I don't know. just the idea that there were specific themes in our PSYOPs is really funny.
various functional group target audiences,
Campaign, media intensity, timing. See, like I feel like all these things are very important informations for how to actually run a PSYOP. Like I think we're actually learning something from this page.
the objectives for each of these functional groups, the severity and stage of subversive insurgency in which the various target groups find themselves, the proposed psychological military activities that should be instituted, and the proposed program to help these activities.
Yeah, I'd say the one big weakness of this program is it's just very general. Like, I don't know what the actual problems were because they didn't state any, and so I don't actually know what any of the solutions were either because, again, I don't even know what the problems were. So, like, I don't know. I feel like I didn't actually learn quite enough about PSYOPs as I would have wanted to. But let's keep going. We got 40 seconds left. Let's see if there's more.
After securing recommendations and the necessary approvals from his own people, and making sure that the military psychological operations plan fits in with the USIS country plan already in effect, the plan is checked with the government of Hostland. Approved by them, it now becomes the psychological operations doctrine for the Hostland military forces. To implement the plan, it becomes necessary for Colonel Hamilton to request the support of military training teams, elements of a U.S. Psychological Operations Battalion assigned to his theater of operations.
So that's so crazy. So in order to get this whole thing running, he has to order soldiers for his intellectual psychological operation. I thought that's what we were watching. I thought he was the guy who was sent to Hostland to do all this stuff, but I guess he's ordering people to come to do it for them. I don't really get that, but what I really want to know is what those guys that he's ordering on the phone right now would have done. Would they have arrived to Hostland and tried to like permeate Hostland culture in order to, you know, have, you know, connections with the locals? Like what would would they have done after this step? What was the actual act of psyoping a country? Like what were those intelligence officers there doing? I'm so curious. Though I don't think the US Army would tell us that much. So I think that's where we got to end this one, right? Yeah, that's the end. Or I guess that's the end of part 1. There might be a part 2 somewhere, but I don't know if I have it. I'll look out for it, and if I find it, we'll definitely watch part 2. But I don't want to make any promises. But yeah, that was part 1 of Psychological Operations in Support of Internal Defense and Development Assistance Programs, part 1. So all right, that was a good watch. I definitely enjoyed that. I think this was, again, a look into the mentality of the United States federal government and military during this time, right? We are getting a glimpse into the American paranoia that existed towards countries being subverted by other countries, which in this case, obviously the Soviet Union. We were scared about countries being turned communist by communist subversion, and so we were creating pretty much a whole branch of the military to combat communist propaganda, I guess, reaching and infiltrating other countries. It's just this exposes so many of our fears and what we were doing about our fears. Even though this is still propaganda and we are still supposed to be rooting for the US after watching this, I can't help but feel like now that we know all this, we are better able to recognize our own country doing this sort of stuff to other countries as well. It's just like it's the double-edged sword of educating people on psyops and how to commit psyops. It's just like, maybe this program itself was a psyop somehow. Like you never really know. So I think this has been a very interesting watch and has definitely let us get a glimpse into the state of mind that Americans had during this time. Not so much the state of mind of the people in Hostland during this time, but I think we're all familiar with Hostland at this point, so I don't think we need to talk any more about them. I think this was very fascinating. I'm definitely satisfied with this being in the red category. After last week, again, I was a little disappointed, but this definitely hit the spot. I'm definitely happy we watched this. I think we got exactly what I wanted out of it. I always want more, but I think we definitely got some good stuff. So I'm going to leave it here. Those are my final thoughts. If you enjoyed watching and would like to help support what I do here, you can follow the link in the description. That'll take you over to the Internet Archive. The Internet Archive is where I get all these old programs from. So if you want to support me, donate to them. And with that, I think we're ready to cut to black.